everybody. Mark Schaftlein with you, and this is the Schaftlein Report. It's Thursday's edition, and we're broadcasting from sunny Irvine, California. Happy to have you with us today, and happy to have my compadre, Jeffrey from New York. Jeffrey, happy to have you on the show today. Welcome back.
Happy to be here, and I'm talking from rainy New York.
Rainy New York and sunny Southern California. Pretty typical this time of year.
Hey, it'll beat snowy.
Hey, Jeffrey, you know, am I the only one that thinks Biden lies every time he speaks? I mean, he got through that State of the Union address the other night reasonably well, I thought, up until sort of the last 20 minutes when he just started blatantly lying, particularly about Social Security and Medicare. I mean, what were your thoughts on that whole...
As I was discussing with my wife, I wasn't sure if he was lying or it was his dementia. But if you look up, okay, Glenn Kessler, who's the liberal Washington Post fact checker, said that, Democrats strain to conjure up a non-existent GOP plan regarding Social Security and Medicare. Gave it 4 Pinocchios. And the fact check, which is another left-leaning one, did a thing called Democrats misleadingly call Republican plan would end Social Security and Medicare. So basically, it's bulldinky.
It's totally, I mean, with all the issues this country has to deal with, for him to, I mean, look, Biden's been a known liar for decades. So for him to come out here and make statements like this that are blatantly false, I mean, it's just beneath the presidency. And then, after the State of the Union, which I thought he delivered fairly well, unlike some Republicans who criticized it significantly, I thought the delivery up until the last 20 minutes, when it sort of just disintegrated, I thought his first, the first 2/3 of it were reasonably well delivered. I took some heat from Republicans for saying that, but I believe it. I thought he did reasonably well, and then it just dissolved. And then he goes out on the road, in Wisconsin, trouble speaking there. Then he goes down to Florida, to talk about, again, a non-existent. Look, Social Security and Medicare, you and I know it, it's got to be fixed soon. Okay? You cannot keep it on the path it's going, it will run out of money. So, right. Again, you and I know there's only 2 solutions to this. One, increase the retirement age gradually over a period of time, or 2, increase the wages with which you have to pay into the program. I can't remember.
Well, there's a third option. Making more people get on Obamacare so they die.
All right, we're not going to go there. But those are 2 realistic solutions. I mean, there could be others that are blended in there, but you either take in more money or you pay out less.
Less people.
Yeah, I mean, this is... But what you cannot, here's the problem, and the younger generation is the one's going to face this. Look, you have every day, I can't remember what the number is, but a large number of the baby boom generation hits 65, which, some of them, they all go on Medicare, but some take it, some delay it. But sometime between 65 and 72, you go on Social Security. So there's more of them going on than there's younger people to pay for it. So there's got to be a give at some point, and it is something both Democrats and Republicans need to address. So what is...
You have to understand, though, you have no choice. I was forced to go onto Medicare when I was 65, and I preferred my personal plan. I'm paying 10 times more for drugs, and that's just the legal ones. But it's a horrible plan. I want to go back to, but they won't let you, at least in New York State.
Yeah, no, once you're 65, you go on it. So anyhow, but there's going to have to be some fixes worked out. Now, Biden stood up there at that, State Income saying, well, I look forward to seeing your budget, Kevin. Come on, I look forward. It was almost like he was trying to get in a fight with Republicans. And it was so interesting watching the body language. The vice president basically stood up and clapped every time he said anything. And McCarthy sort of, he had that grin like, oh, God, here we go again. He tolerated it. But, man, some of his caucus, I'm in your camp. I did not like that shouting and insulting.
No, I didn't either.
Maybe I'm old school, but I think even though I disagree adamantly with a lot of Biden's policies, you have to give him the respect. And, okay.
Well, especially because it was a public display.
I know.
And that's not how you display the president of the United States. You got to honor the position.
Yeah, even when he lies.
Behind the doors, you call him names.
Yeah, he lied a lot. I think the last 20 minutes, it just evolved. That's what I think. All right, but let's look forward and not backward. Okay, so, we know that he lied. Most of the American public know that he lied. Now, will it translate? I don't know. But no, I don't. There's no one out there worried about during this election season losing their Social Security or Medicare benefits. That's just not happening. Now, years down the road, that'll be a problem. But let's talk about some things going on here, particularly on the Republican side. We've mentioned candidates, Jeffrey, that may end up running for the Republican nomination. Right now we got Trump and Nikki Haley. Well, Haley hasn't announced, but she's going to. New Hampshire Governor John Sununu, now he's a formidable guy. He looks like he's going to throw his hat in the ring.
I don't see it.
You don't see it. Now, you're closer to him than we are here. I mean, he's governor of New Hampshire.
He's still far away. I think he's a true conservative. I just think he realizes that the more people you get into the pot, the less for everybody. I mean, they just did a poll that said Santos beats Trump. Not Santos, excuse me. DeSantis beats Trump, except when Nikki Haley comes in.
Well, I mean, she's going to get in. I mean,
right. In 6 days.
Yeah.
But the thing is that the more you divide it, the more of a chance you have Trump coming in. And I got to believe, I'm going to get killed for this. There are going to be people outside my house with torches, but I don't think they should nominate Trump again.
Well, I have said for a long time, I think there will be multiple Republicans that get into this. I believe Sununu will get in. Okay, so you're going to have Trump, Sununu, Nikki Haley, former governor of South Carolina, UN ambassador. I don't think DeSantis is going to announce until maybe June, July. He could even wait until September because he's governor of Florida. He's going to deal with the legislative session. That's pretty well documented. Everything I'm reading and seeing from the political operatives I talked to, particularly when I was down in Florida, he looks like he's going to run, but he won't make an official announcement till later. And Jeffrey, we can say we need to clear the field all we want. I've seen no indication, nothing, that Mike Pompeo's not going to put his hat in the ring. And will Vice President Pence get in? Would not shock me in the least.
He's going to get in.
Say again?
He's going to get in.
Yeah, he's going to get in. And then I think possibly Glenn Youngkin, possibly Tim Scott. So what do you have? I mean, that's like, what, 9 possible candidates right there?
The same reasons why, one of the reasons why I objected to Obama beyond policy is that he hasn't been in government long enough. I don't want anybody who's only had a high government position for a year or two.
You're talking about Glenn Youngkin now?
Yeah.
Well, maybe so, but boy, he's doing awful good by the people in Virginia. Bear in mind, a Republican won a blue state, and that Republican's got an approval rating north of 50% in the state of Virginia. That's pretty impressive.
I happen to love Pompeo also.
So do I. But yeah, again, as the season goes along, the question will be, is it going to be a repeat of 2016 where it turned into Trump and everybody else? I don't think that's going to happen. Everybody always compares what happened in the past and putting it in the future. Politics doesn't work that way.
Yeah, you're right.
It'll be different. I mean, Trump has a record that he won. He has the baggage from January 6th, like it or not, to deal with, and he's got an electability issue. Some polls are showing him slightly ahead of Biden. You and I do not share that same confidence. But again, things change. The one thing is for sure, the American public does not want to see Donald Trump, Joe Biden redo.
Absolutely. I just saw a poll on it the other day that said that.
Yeah.
By the way, you should know, I'm not running for president.
You've ruled it out officially.
Yeah. And the other thing you should know is that I've decided not to sign up and play for the NFL next year.
Okay. I think no one will be quivering anymore. I think so. I think you probably came down on the right side of history on those. All right. Speaking of history, when they ran again in the Senate race in Pennsylvania, there was a lot of concern for John Fetterman's health. We wish him the best.
Yeah.
But again, we're months into 2023. John Fetterman's a new senator, and unfortunately, he's in the hospital. We don't know how serious it is. He did the right thing by going there because the man had a stroke. But here again, this was discussed prior to the election, and Fetterman won anyhow. So I guess people don't care about people's health anymore in Pennsylvania. It's just, do you have an R next to your name or a D next to your name? I don't know. But we did.
Well, I think he convinced people he'd be okay.
Yeah.
The scary thing is that, look, I'm not a doctor, okay? My father was an MD, but that's only because his initials were MD. But I'm not a doctor. But when you start having lightheaded incidents after you had a stroke less than a year ago, it's got to mean something. I mean, do you remember when Ariel Sharon was the prime minister of Israel?
Sure.
And he had a stroke, and then he had some times when he was lightheaded, and then he had a stroke that put him in a coma for 10 years.
Yeah.
It just, for his own health,
yeah.
I think he should, lay off the politics for a while.
I don't know, but boy, he's going to go through a tough time, for sure there. All right, now let's get to some substantive issues here. The Republicans are going after Hunter Biden and Jim Biden. Jeffrey, share your perspective on this.
I think they're doing the wrong approach. They're not going after Hunter Biden and Uncle Jim. They're going after Joe Biden.
Correct.
And that's what they should say. We're trying to see if the president has too much of a close relationship with China, whether he's paid off by China, things like that. And Hunter is just the vehicle to get there.
Well, he is. I agree with you 100%. And Jim Connor of the committee doing the investigation, representative from Kentucky, he has said, we're not going after Hunter Biden. We want to see the money trail to see if it leads from Jim Biden, his brother, Hunter Biden, his son, to Joe Biden. That's what this investigation, people outside the Beltway think, well, they're going after Hunter Biden. No, they're not. They're going to look at the money trail. What do they always say in Washington, D.C.? Follow the money. Follow the money. And I said,
but they're not making it a big issue. What they should say is, no. I mean, loud and clear, we're not going after Hunter. We want to see the money trail. That's it.
Yeah, I think they'd be better off doing that. But again, it's no surprise to me. Again, it was promised to the Republican base that if they took the House, they would do these things. Jeffrey, so far, the things that they promised they would do, they're doing them. Now, right, wrong, or indifferent, they made the promises and they're keeping the promises.
Yeah, but they have to do it the right way because a Republican votership will not win elections.
Right.
You need to at least convince the unaffiliated.
Yeah, half of the unaffiliated to win it. Exactly right. All right, shifting away from Hunter and Jim Biden for just a minute, on the economy, Jeffrey, this is not a surprise to me right now. Half of all Americans say they're worse off now than they were 1 year ago. And 1 year ago, that's when all the inflation started coming up, the gas prices, the food prices. I mean, Americans got walloped by inflation over the past year. Yeah, it's come down a little bit, but man, you go to a grocery store, stuff is still very expensive, and Americans are feeling.
Heck, at my grocery store, they have eggs locked behind the cabinet.
Really? No kidding.
You have to say, and they'll come by with a key and open it.
That's amazing. They've gone from $2 a dozen to $7 or $8, depending upon where you are. It's unbelievable. No, but again,
there's where Biden's lying.
Right.
Now, we brought down inflation. Yeah. But when he took office, it was a 1.5%. It's gone up since then.
Yeah, I mean, it's sitting at 4.5 right now, 4.5 to 5, depending upon the metrics that you follow. Yes, it's coming down, but not in all areas. I mean, gasoline prices have come down. That's great. But food costs are still high. cost for employees is high. I mean, wages have gone way up. Why do you think all these companies like Disney and all these other companies in Silicon Valley, they're announcing these massive layoffs? You know, every time I see that, Jeffrey, like Disney announces 7,000, you know, Alphabet X, and I'm saying, what were all these tech companies doing, employing all these people? And all of a sudden, they're not laying off hundreds, they're laying off thousands. That's collectively, that's
they
pretty big
stocked up. They stocked up during the pandemic.
Stocked up on employees.
Well, they overhired.
They did. There's no question about it.
And now they're getting rid of what they overhired.
Yeah.
But see, this whole thing is another Biden lie.
Yeah, I know.
You know, gas prices are still up. I checked it out. It was 165%. Well, 65% over they were when Biden walked into the Oval Office.
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't bring them down. They're still up.
Yeah, they came down from record peaks, but they're still higher than they were under Trump. Yeah, there's no question.
And over the
about it.
last month, they've started creeping back up.
Well, you know, we saw initial jobless claims came in at like 190,000, still under 200,000. That's a good number, folks. And
Sure.
Again, Biden was right the other night. Unemployment's at 3.4%. Economists will come on all the time and say you cannot have a recession with a 3.4% unemployment rate. The question is, will it spread beyond technology and certain what I'll call conglomerate type companies? I mean, Disney's a gigantic company, okay? But it doesn't seem, these layoffs, Jeffrey, outside of technology and a handful of Fortune 500 companies, it doesn't seem to be spreading among the general populace, particularly on blue collar jobs.
Well, it's interesting because Disney their workers are all different kinds.
Yes.
And not just, I worked for Disney for 3 years.
Yeah.
And I was in the publishing end. And there were people who clean up the parks, and things like that. So you have people all over. And the interesting thing is that even the tech companies, when you start getting rid of them, they're not going to buy as much food. They're not going to get as much gas. So eventually that'll hit those companies. They'll start laying off people. Yeah, and I don't know if it's going to be a recession or not, I think it'll be a recession, but I don't know if it's going to be a deep one. Or some people are saying depression, but I think that's stupid.
No, I'm not seeing that. No.
But I think that there will be a recession. I think we're going towards that. Not right away, but I think either the late this year or early next year.
So late this year, early next. That's certainly a possibility. I don't see anything happening in the next 3 or 4 months. It's going to lead to that piece. But we'll see as the year goes along.
Although my wife told me I should worry about her laying me off. I don't know.
Well, one thing that continues, and I'm just going to share some stories going on out here in California. We've seen what happens when Democrats run these, blue cities and blue states, okay? Lots of issues. Here in California, Jeffrey, this is this is incredulous. I mean, it's just amazing things you see out here. But the state legislature out here, their last session, they passed a bill with the aim of some radical left representatives in the state house. Bear in mind, in Sacramento, California, the Democrats have a supermajority in the House and the Senate. They can pass whatever they want. So they passed some crazy bill that they thought was going to help protect LGBTQ people. What ultimately the effect of that bill was, it effectively set up prostitution rings, allowed it to flourish in the open air in all these blue cities. So now in parts of Los Angeles, San Francisco, where you have deep blue cities in a deep blue state, these prostitutes and pimps are running crazy out there, and there's not a damn thing the cops can do. And people are clamoring to get this damn bill repealed, and they're like, oh, no, I mean, this a side effect, it just happened. But again, it illustrates...
But look what that does to unemployment in the state.
No, I'm well aware. Exactly.
You know what also is crazy? Did you hear about Pennsylvania's new bill?
Tell us about it.
They're worried about the use of guns.
Oh, God. Here we go.
So you know how Pennsylvania has all these reenactments?
Yeah.
They ban people using muskets at reenactments
Oh God, it's just
because they're guns
it's
and they fire. And the sick part about it is, if you talk to somebody about the Second Amendment, and who's anti-gun, they'll say, "Well, it only covers things like muskets." And now they're banning muskets.
Jeffrey, if these states keep doing all these insane things, the state of Florida, people are going to continue moving down there because in the state of Florida, they don't do all this crazy stuff.
Yeah, you're going to get awful crowded down there.
It is going to get crowded. By the way, you and I'll meet later in I think March in Delray Beach. So anyhow, getting back to what I was talking about, it's crazy what's going on. You're seeing these pimps out on the street in front of kids. I mean, it's god awful in certain parts of L.A. County and San Francisco. Just why don't they think these things through when they pass these bills? It's just incredible what's going on.
Because they don't care.
No, they don't. They think they're going to be a goodie for society on helping an LGBTQ, and it ends up morphing into something completely different. All right, you had a topic you wanted to talk about today, and I want to shift some of the time to you, and then we'll get into a couple other subjects later on. But what was going on with Roger Waters? You sent me a little blurb.
Well, I should start out by saying that Pink Floyd, which was the group he used to be in,
right,
was my favorite group. When I was in college, Dark Side of the Moon played continually. Okay. And Waters left the group because he wanted to control everything. And they said no. Since then, he's become a hater. He's been anti-Israel. He's even anti-Semitic. He even had pigs flying, which is really, Pink Floyd always had pigs flying.
Yeah, I know they do.
But he put Jewish stars on them.
Oh, God.
Okay. So I'm used to it already. Howard Stern has a great, he really goes after him. And actually I have that in the post. If people want to see it, it's the top post on my site. But because Howard Stern goes crazy about him. But now he's picked up his friend, because he's not only beaten up on Israel, he's beaten up on Ukraine.
Yeah, I mean, why does a guy like this even get a forum to talk about this garbage?
He was speaking at the UN Security Council yesterday.
I knew that. I wanted you to say that. That's why we're talking about this, folks, because the UN, which is that's as far left-wing organization, damn near as the Democratic Party. I mean, you just see this garbage going on all the time.
Well, that's why I wish Nikki Haley was still our ambassador.
Well,
or Daniel Patrick Moynihan when he was there.
Yeah, they were very good ambassadors.
The thing is, he's trying to tell everybody that Russia's right and Ukraine provoked them.
Oh God!
I guess trying to live a peaceful life is provocation.
You can't even deal with that. I mean, it's just insane. Speaking of some interesting developments, though, how about Trump getting back? Facebook and Instagram are allowing him to come back. Think he's going to take advantage of that, Jeffrey?
I don't know. He has his own site.
Yeah.
I think he will, because if he's going to run, he might as well be able to cover everything.
Use as much as you can. Yeah, use every possible site you can. And then a disturbing story out of D.C. today. A Democratic congresswoman, her name is Angie Craig out of Minnesota, was assaulted in her the elevator in her apartment. I guess probably heading to Congress or something. But I mean, no political bias, the police have said so far. But I mean, my God, a congresswoman assaulted. Jeffrey, I mean, I know there's a lot of crime in D.C. We've documented that, but boy, that's a harrowing story coming out. And you had two people recently in New Jersey, two Republican assembly people or whatever council people
got shot.
Yeah, got murdered in New Jersey. So I mean, I'm not tying them together or anything like that. I'm just saying, and this is not a political violence case against Representative Craig. It's just sort of shocking. You hear stories like this.
I think that we got to protect our public officials better. I mean, they're in there to serve us.
Yeah, maybe.
And they should be. But it's not a related story, but the thing that's also making me very sad is now the 20,000 people who were killed in the earthquakes.
Yeah, I know. That just broke earlier, and that's a horrible story. The scope of the damage, the lives lost, that is just a horrific situation in Turkey and Syria, and the act of nature. I mean, an earthquake, and now it's the time since the quake has gone by, it's being very difficult to find survivors, but they are still trying. But the government's coming under a lot of heat for how they've handled it. I can't really comment much on it because we're so far removed from it, but it's just a terrible human tragedy. I agree with you there. You know, I want to get your thoughts on a couple other things, but let me close it out with this. You know, it's really interesting in sports. You know, we got Super Bowl this weekend, and the National Basketball Association has their trade deadline like during Super Bowl week. So the NBA stays relevant, and boy, did they, you know, Kevin Durant, well, arguably one of the best players in the game, traded from the, not too far from you, the Brooklyn Nets, to the Phoenix Suns. And then, of course, the Lakers finally got rid of Russell Westbrook in an experiment that didn't work. Sent him over to Utah. I don't think he's going to stay there. But anyhow, he's gone from L.A. Now, Jeffrey, right in the middle of the NFL week building up to Super Bowl, the NBA takes the headlines with major trades on top of the Kyrie Irving to Dallas deal.
You know, when I was a kid, when they were on Long Island, they played like 15 minutes from my house. And I used to go, it was $3.50 to go to a net game with a GO card.
Yeah.
And I used to go with my father. We used to sit under the basket, see Dr. J, before that, Rick Barry. I don't enjoy basketball anymore.
Yeah.
Well, it's not the game that it used to be. It's stars. It's
it is stars. There's no question who runs the league. That's for sure. I mean, it's a different product now than what it was before. You can't hand check. You can't do a lot of things on defense. They took that out of the game, and, you know, a handful of stars run the league. But it was interesting. You know, this week is Super Bowl week, and during this week, LeBron James became the all-time leading scorer. Kevin Durant got traded. Westbrook traded. Kyrie Irving traded. NBA made a lot of news during Super Bowl week, and I guess that's why they try to do it. All right, we got a minute or two left. Jeffrey, okay, you saw the Biden speech. He's out talking. We still have economic issues in this country. You know, where do we go from here? I always ask you that. Where do you see things developing over the next couple months?
Well, this is what we have now, the Super Bowl week. And that was the last good Super Bowl.
Your boy Joe Namath, 1969.
Okay, where do we go from here? We're going to still continue hearing those lies.
Yeah.
Over and over and over. And the Republican Party cannot let themselves flip out.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Then they're going to only look bad. And they're going to have to position. I don't disagree with any of the commissions they're having or anything that Jordan's doing over there.
Yep.
But they got to position it in a way that is being done to help America, not as revenge.
I agree with you 100%. Absolutely.
And I don't think they're positioning it that way.
They've got time.
I don't think it is that way, but I don't think they're positioning it that way either.
Yeah, I think they need to have a clear communication strategy, get out in front of this, because there is, you know, some fire there. It's not just smoke. There is some fire there. You know it. I know it. So they've got to get out there, and they're going to have to talk about that, about what they're doing. And then the other thing I think is important, I do want to see that budget when it comes out. You know, the Democrats are going to have a budget. Republicans will produce theirs. It's actually the president's job to produce a budget, then Congress edits it. So when Biden's saying, I want to see your budget, Kevin, that's not how it works, folks.
He's got to go first.
Exactly. So we will cut through that as we see it. All right, Super Bowl prediction, who are you taking?
Kansas City has the better team. But you can't go against Philadelphia. They're a good team, and they're lucky they're not playing in Philadelphia because, you know, Philadelphia fans, if you beat them,
yeah, they
get violent.
They take it out. You know, I'll take the opposite side of the trade. A lot of people are saying Philly's the best team, but Casey's got the quarterback. I think Kansas City in a tight one, and we'll play it back next week and see whether your Eagles or my Chiefs ended up ahead. Folks, enjoy.
Neither one of mine are mine.
Yeah,
but you know what? You know what happens on Monday?
Yes, sir.
Pitchers and catchers.
Yeah, I know. I knew you were going to say that. And you got a good team this year. All right, listen, folks, we'll be back next week. You can hold our, you know, Jeffrey's got Philly. I've got Kansas City. We'll see who's right. I also think it might be the game may go over the point spread. The over-under's sitting around between 50, 51. I think that we may see some points in this game. Jeffrey, have a great weekend coming up. I will talk to you next week. Folks, we'll keep an eye out for all this propaganda that you see, and we'll try to cut through it. But most of all, have a great Super Bowl weekend, and we will talk to you next week. Thanks a lot for viewing and listening. See you next week.